Is Zain Adar. It is the 7th day of the month of Adar. It is the birthday and yahrzeit of Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu, without which none of this would be here. So, big opportunity to give Shevach Todah to the Rebbeinu Shalom for bringing into this world Moshe Rabbeinu and all of the Torah that he gave to us. Baruch Hashem. We have the schus to be able to learn. And today's Amud is continuing with many of the themes that we have been discussing of Zugos and all of questions of Kishuf, of magic and mysteries and witchcraft and perhaps Ein Haras, overwhelmingly none of which are paskind. None of which are paskind. You'll see there's very, very few things that are paskind, not in the Rif, not in the Tur, not in the Shulchan Aruch. There are places that this is, in some Achronim, that this is, some of it is at least noted as a chashash la'alacha, but within the next daf or two, we're going to discover what happened to all of these demons and all of these concerns, and we'll get there. But we are picking up from the bottom of Kuf Yud Amud Beis. Our daf today is Kuf Yud Aleph Amud Aleph, but we're on the final line of Kuf Yud Amud Beis, where the Gemara has told us, Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel. Says Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel, Kol Amazug Mitzarif. All poured drinks, meaning all mixed drinks, effectively. Mitzarif, connect together. So we spoke yesterday about drinking wine after beer or beer after wine, and in what order things are going to join or not join, whether it's at the table or not at the table. Says Rabbi Yehuda in the name of Shmuel, mixed drinks mix, meaning if you have one cocktail and then another cocktail, those two are going to be zugos. That's going to be an issue. Turning to Kuf Yud Aleph Amud Aleph, chutz min hamayim, except for water. Water is not considered to be a mixed drink. Meaning, if you have some cocktail and then you have some spring water with sparkling water, whatever it is, that mixed, that's not called a mixed drink. Rabbi Yochanan says, "Afilu ma'im." Now, water is actually a problem. Meaning, water will join to be one of the zugos, or will take you out of zugos. Amar Papa says, "Lo amran ela chamimi legay kuriru legay chamimi, aval chamimi legay chamimi kuriru legay kuriru." A mixed drink is if you put hot water with cold water or cold water with hot water. That's mixing something. That's a drink. But if it is just hot water with hot water, that's not a mixed drink. That's not going to count. That's not called a drink. So if you're worried about having zugos, so you have if you have whatever it is, a glass of wine, and then another glass of wine, that's zugos. If you have a glass of wine and then a glass of beer, so that might be zugos. And if you have martini, whatever, and then whatever it is, some Jack and Coke, that will also be mistarif, and so too it will if you have a mixed sparkling water with hot water or something. A mixed drink of water is also called a mixed drink if they are, one's hot and one is cold. Okay. Amarish Lakish says Lakish on the topic of things that are dangerous for you, that could bring you concern and danger. Arbet Varim. There are four things. If you do it, if a person does it, his blood is on his head. And he's liable for his own life. Whatever happens to him, that's his fault, meaning he's brought this upon himself. And then the Gemara for the rest of the Amud, effectively, or at least a lot of it, is going to discuss these four things. These are they. Somebody that uses the bathroom, meaning that relieves himself between a palm tree and a wall. And somebody that passes through two palm trees, and somebody that drinks borrowed water, and somebody that passes over spilled water, and even if it was water that his wife poured out in front of him. What are these things, and what are we talking about in any of these situations? This is the main of Rish Lakish. Don't do these things. Rashi at the top of the page points out, Kulam Mishum Ruach Ra. All of this is because of Ruach Ra. The Rashbam here points out, what's the concern? You have You have Ruach Ra, and there are those that argue that this is because it makes you susceptible to witchcraft or to mazikin. Now, is there a difference between Ruach Ra and mazikin? So that's what to talk about as well. But this is non-physical dangers that we are talking about. That's the underlying theme of all of these things. That these are not dangers that you could scientifically, note what's going to go wrong here. What you find in the Pesachim is that they refer to this as inyanim skuliyim, that these are skula-oriented dangers. What are these things? So first of the wide line says the Gemara as follows: Hanifne ben dekel kaisel, somebody that relieves himself between a wall and a palm tree. Lo ya'amran ela deleis le arba amos. This is only talking about a situation where there is not 4 amos between the wall and the palm tree. That's the concern. If there's no 4 amos between them, well, why would 4 amos make any difference? So the Rashbam points out here because if you don't have 4 amos, then you don't have enough space for the shade to pass through. So if you have shadim that are coming there, these are desolated places, and if there isn't enough space for a ruach ra or a shade to pass through, so now you're blocking their path, and that could impact you. But if they are 4 amos, then we don't have to be concerned with it. And even if there are 4 amos, we didn't say this. We only said that it's permissible to do this if there isn't another way. Meaning, if there's another way for the demon to pass through, it's not like closed off. That there's a wall here and a palm tree over there, but on the other side of the palm tree, there's plenty of space. But so if there's no space, that would be a problem. But if there's another place that the demon could pass through, that would be not a problem. Okay. Somebody that passes through 2 palm trees. That's only talking about a situation where there isn't a thoroughfare, that normative road that's between them. But if there is a public domain that crosses it, then no problem. Then you can walk between these 2 palm trees. Somebody that drinks borrowed water. What's the problem with borrowed water? This is only talking about water that was borrowed by a child. But if you drink water that was borrowed by a gadol, by an adult, there's no problem with that. And the problem with drinking borrowed water from a child is only going to be in a field, but it's not because that's irregular. Meaning it's not common that you find water in the field. Aval ba'ir, but in the city, the shchichi, that water is prevalent everywhere. You have to be concerned with it. And in the fields, we only said that it's dangerous to drink water that's borrowed from a katan. But meaning that the katan had borrowed, now you're drinking it from him. And wine and beer, there's no problem with that. That if the katan has got a bottle of wine, you can drink that. And passing over spilled water is not a problem, unless you did not sprinkle dirt into it, or you didn't spit into it. Those 2 things would make it possible for you to pass over the spilled water. But if you put dirt in it, or you spat into it, you don't have to be concerned. And we only said that there is a concern about this water in general if the sun has not passed over it, and he didn't walk 60 steps over it. Meaning, there are many steps to walk. That's not going to be a problem. But if the sun has passed over it, and 60 steps have been walked over it, it could be you, it could be other people, there's no concern about it. And we only said that there's a concern about spilled water if he's not riding a donkey, or if he's not wearing shoes. But if he's riding a donkey or he is wearing shoes, there is no concern about that. I suppose from a health and safety perspective, there's good reason to tell people not to walk barefoot through unknown puddles of water. Okay. And these words, all of these things that we said, you don't have to worry about it if there's a donkey, and if there's shoes, and if there's a sun, and if there's a... So all of that is only in a place that you're not worried about kshafim. You're not worried about witchcraft. But in places where people practice witchcraft, even if all of these conditions exist, you should still be concerned about it and not pass through that puddle. Says the Gemara, and I'll give you a good example of this. This is Gavra Derach Chamra. There was who Gavra Derach Chamra. There was a guy that was riding a donkey, and he was wearing shoes, and his shoes shrank, and his feet shriveled up. Meaning, it was a place that the witchcraft was prevalent, and he passed through with all of these good conditions to make it okay, and it still didn't help him. The Brisa says as well. There are three things that you don't make pass through people. You don't have them pass through two people. And you shouldn't meaning you shouldn't pass through them, and then you shouldn't let them pass through you. What are they? The Elohim, hakelev hadekel va'isha, a dog, a palm tree, and an isha, a woman. Meaning, don't have one of these things pass between two men, and don't have one man pass between two of these things. V'yesh omrim, there are those that say afa chazir, also a pig you have to be concerned about. V'yesh omrim afa nachash, also a snake. So what is all of this, and what are these halachas? V'i mematzin, what happens if this did happen, right? Two guys are standing, and I suppose a palm tree is not going to pass between you, but a dog does, right? What do? Ma'atakante. Amar Papa says, Niftach bekel v'nafsik bekel. You should open with kel, and you should end with kel. What exactly is this talking about? So the Rashbam says, this is the pasuk by in Bamidbar, Kel Matziyom Mitzrayim, that 3 psukim later ends with the word kel as well. So you begin with kel and you end with kel. The Rabbeinu Chananel here notes that this is a tefillah. It's a tefillah that begins with kel and ends with kel. And the Pesachim writes that which Rashi and the Rashbam say that it's the pasuk that begins with kel and ends with kel is in fact in the Zohar Chadash. So he notes that we have this tradition al pi Kabbalah. Says the Gemara, the Inami, alternatively, Niftach beloi v'nafsik beloi. You begin with a pasuk that ends with the word loi, and you end with a pasuk that ends with the word loi. So either a pasuk that begins with kel or a pasuk that begins with loi. Interesting to note that both kel and loi are the same letters, the opposite way around, and apparently that's the thing that's going to help you. Hani beitrei dematzelahu ishanida. You have two. If you have two men that an isha nida passes between them, a woman that is in nida, im tchilas nida sahi, if these are the dangers, yeah, im tchilas nida sahi, if this is the beginning of her period of nida, hareges achazmem, she'll kill one of them. Meaning, Rashbam says, doesn't mean she's going to murder them. It means one of them is going to be injured as a result of this. Im seif nida sahi, if this is the end of her nida period, miriva oiseh b'nehem, she's going to make a machlokes between these two people. Mata kante, what's the way of fixing this? Niftach bekel v'nafsik bekel. You should begin with kel and you should end with kel. Hani trei nashi di yasam meparashas drachim. If you have two women that are sitting at a crossroad, chad b'hay gisa de shvila v'chad b'idach gisa. One of them is on one side of the street, the other one is on the other side of the street. Umechavden apayu lehadade, and they are staring at each other from one side of the street to the other side of the street. Says the Gemara, Vadai bikshafim askina. They are for sure engaged in witchcraft. Mata kante, so what do? You want to walk down the street. What are you going to do? If there's another way to go, go the other way. If there's no other way, if there's another guy that's with you, they should hold hands, one with the other, and then they can pass through. V'leka inishachrini, and if there's no other person with him, nema hachi, you should say the following: Igros azlus asher belusia, referring to these 4 female demons. Miskatla b'chek kibel, they have already been killed by arrows. There's arrows that have already been killed. Okay, that's the way of passing through this. Says the Gemara, "Hi man, the panga be'itza be'ina the salkim mitfilas mitzvah." If you have a person that encounters a woman on the way back from from going to the mikveh, meaning not his wife, somebody that sees a woman that's coming out of the mikveh, if he goes home and he is intimate with his wife after meeting this other woman, seeing this other woman, if he goes home and is with his wife, he's going to be infected. He's going to be impacted by a spirit of immorality, meaning he's going to have a heightened yetzer hara. And if she goes home and she's with her husband, meaning the woman that came out of the mikveh, she's going to be affected by a desire for immorality. So how do you fix this? You should say, Shvoich bois al nedivim ve'yas'im beto loy derech, which is the pasuk in Tehillim. Shvoich bois al nedivim, to pour out shame on nedivim, on choshev people, on royalty, ve'yas'im beto loy derech, and make them wander in the waste. That's the girsa that our Gemara has. It's interesting to note that there are some girsas that have another pasuk as the takana over here. The other pasuk is the pasuk in Eov, which is almost the same pasuk. Shefech bois al nedivim umeziach afikim ripa. The pasuk in Eov. The Shach in Yerideh paskins that if a person encounters a woman on her way back from the mikveh, he should say both of these psukim. You should say both of these psukim, that this is something that we are concerned about, and that you should be aware of this and not take it lightly. Okay. Says the Gemara continuing, Amar Rabbi Yitzchak. Says Rabbi Yitzchak, what does the pasuk mean when it says, even though I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, because you are with me. What's the valley of the shadow of death? This refers to a person that is sleeping in the shadow of a single palm tree. Uvetzel levana, and in the shadow of the moon, meaning so it's a shadow that is caused by the moon. A shadow of a single palm tree is talking about a palm tree that doesn't have another palm tree nearby, meaning that there's no other shadow that falls on that space. But if the shadow of another tree is on it, somebody you don't have to be concerned about that. That's not called Gates al Mavis. Ella hadatanya. But we have a brisa that seems to disagree with us. That says Hayashim b'tzel dekel yichidi b'chatzer. Someone that sleeps under the shade of a single palm tree in a courtyard. Vayashim b'tzel levana, and somebody that sleeps in the shadow of the moon. Dama v'rosha. That is that person is liable for whatever happens to him. Hey chidami. How so? If you say that this palm tree that's in the courtyard, that there's no other shadow that's involved there, I feel besadanami. So then it should also be dangerous if this happens in a field. Rather, you have to say that in a courtyard it's dangerous, even if there is another shadow that is present, another tree shadow that is there. And we learn from this that in a chatzar it's more dangerous than in a sadeh. Okay, and in the shadow of the moon it was only said, Ela b'ma'arava, where the shadow is in the west, meaning that is at the end of the month, when the moon is in the east and the shadow is in the west. Aval be-medin chasa, but when the shadow is in the east, leislamba, you don't have to be worried about this. And Be'ez Hashem Yisbarach, we will continue with Kuf Yud Aleph Amud Beis tomorrow. And at some point, we'll try and make sense out of what all of these sugis are talking about. There's a lot to see and to understand. But Hashem Yisbarach, we'll get another daf or so in, and then we'll try making sense about all of these things. Let Mafra. Hope everybody has a beautiful day, and looking forward to continuing with Kuf Yud Aleph Amud Beis tomorrow.